Michal, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me from, I'm very jealous. I'm calling in a jumper in Sydney, freezing cold, and you're in Miami.
Yes, welcome from Miami.
We're going to explore your career and the journeys you've taken. We're going to touch on kind of the different countries you've worked in as well, because I think that's a really interesting aspect of your background. But for the benefit of our viewers, can you tell me a bit more about you, your working background, and a bit of an overview of your career to date?
So I started my career in 2006. All my career, I worked in consulting only. So I never worked like directly for a client. So I had a pleasure to working for such companies like Accenture, Deloitte, and recently I work for IBM. So I think I was working for big top companies which specializing in IT consulting. And I had also opportunity to work for a different country. So I was able to work in UK, Netherlands, US, Australia, and then many places when I was able to help my clients worldwide.
So in that time in consulting, so Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, have you always worked in Salesforce, or did your career start in another technology?
I started my career as Oracle specialist. So I was PeopleSoft, then very short time, PeopleSoft CRM. Then I was Oracle Civil, many years for Oracle Civil. And 2016, when I find out that there's a velocity and Salesforce is switching to be industry specific solution, I really get interested and I find out that this is a future for me. So I switched 2016 to the Salesforce, and till now I am with Salesforce. I really enjoy in the Salesforce.
So just looking back at your Oracle days, were you a developer or an architect? What was your kind of path into IT and the early days of consulting?
So I was mainly the project manager, solution architect. That's my key roles across Oracle and later on also Salesforce.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the different countries you've worked in. You know, a lot of the people we have on the podcast have moved at some stage in their career. But I think one thing that strikes me about your career is you've kind of moved relatively consistently across the years. And even when you've been based in one place, you've worked in different regions. So you've worked in Australia, you've worked in the Netherlands, as you said. You've been based in London. You're now working in the US. How have you found things to differ between different countries? Like, what have you enjoyed about each of them? And does your role change when you work in different countries?
My role really didn't change. I was always trying to specialize in delivering CRM systems. I also was trying for most of my career focus on telecommunications. Most of my clients was telecommunications companies. And that was exactly the reason why I needed to travel a lot. Because if you think about the telecommunication market or telecommunication industry, in countries like Australia, I don't know, UK, you have 3, 4, maybe 5 top players. So you have really 5 key clients for whom you can work. Then what happens is these 5 clients not always choose Accenture, IBM, SMA system integrator. So it can happen that they choose some other system integrator. So automatically you cannot work for them. And then on top of it, they also can be happy with their own system. So it means that there will be a situation that they are not looking to change their BSS system or, the CRM system. So they will be not investing in this particular area. They will focus, for example, for network, 5G, 6G, that would be their priority instead of, for example, investing in BSS. And if you are BSS is a business system support system. So the CRM, billing and order management. So typical, the non-network related system. Yeah. So I'm using here the telco terminology. So because of this, that I was kind of aligned to telecommunication, what happened is that I automatically needed to really, if I wanted to continue working for many telco clients, I needed to really change the countries or unable to travel to different places and work for the different telco clients.
Do you find, though, that the role of, obviously you're doing the same thing, but you have to be aware of different cultures, different ways of working, and as an example, was it very different delivering a project in Australia compared to delivering something in America, or is it fairly kind of consistent?
I really enjoy the culture differences. So as I said, I had a pleasure to work on European markets. Then I was working also for USA, Canada. I was working for some delivery projects in Africa. and also Australia. And as you mentioned, each of these places has a different delivery culture, different, let's say, attitude, how it works. Yeah. And even if you work for one country, like for example, US is so much differentiated. Like working for a clients which are based in Texas will be totally different than working for a clients which are New York or California based. So similar, you need to have a skills to get adjusted to the culture skills and how you deliver the projects in UK, Australia, or Europe. Yeah. So some countries are very direct. They like direct style. Some of the countries, they like, political games, being nice and taking time, slowness of explaining the things, not to be too direct and so on. So all of this stuff is a good mix. And to be honest, I like such challenges and I really enjoy to learn all these things from different countries.
When people talk about consulting, I think often they think of like 80s consulting, where people are on a plane living out of a suitcase. Now, in Australia, that doesn't tend to be the way that people work, right? Have you found Australia to be the only country you've worked in where it isn't that common for traveling? Because I know, like, as an example, you were based out of London, but you were traveling to Europe regularly, right? Is that just accepted in the US and Europe, whereas in Australia, it's kind of not the norm?
I get a lot of familiar Australia, as you mentioned, that even if you work in the consulting, most of the stuff you don't need to travel so much. Yeah. Even in Australia, I needed to travel to Perth, so which was kind of an exception. But you're right. The most of the stuff you are able don't need to be always living on the suitcase or living at the hotel, because in Australia, most of the stuff you are able to do it near home and so on. Yeah. So the country which from this perspective is really the closest one would be Canada. The, I had an opportunity to live and work in Canada of 2016, 2018. And also my experience was at that moment, it was before COVID. Canada culture was already that most of the clients resources, they were working from home because of the house prices. The salaries versus house prices were, let's say, big gap. So the companies, they allow people to work really far away from the office and work remotely. The requirement was to work in the same time zone. So for example, I was trying at the beginning to work from UK, but then, for example, I was I was finishing my work Friday, 11 p.m., for example, to be on the same time zone as Canada. It was really destroying all my day. So I much more prefer that even if I needed to travel to Canada, and living in Canada, I was able to work in the same time zone. But on the other hand, I didn't need to be every day at office or and so on. So workshops, etc., was done face to face, or the workshops with the client. But then after, let's say, design phase was kind of stabilized and completed, then during development, this all we were organized to switch to work from home, and that was already culture before COVID. Yeah, and COVID, just post COVID, it changed a lot, that it is even more now enabled remotely.
What about now in the US then, since COVID? Are you finding that there's a lot of travel required with consulting again now?
As I mentioned, Australia and Canada, they are get very familiar, and in Canada you can still find it that they are, let's say, not so much. They still enable that working in similar style, that they can work from home and that doesn't need to be every day at office. When US companies, they are coming back to the ideas that you should be at least 3 days, 2 days per week at office. And they are really start asking to travel to the clients and so on, which I enjoy it. It's fine. But yeah, we are coming back to the pre-COVID situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned you kind of started thinking about velocity and industries back in 2016. So we're quite a way into that now, I guess. Like, it's not the concept of industries isn't new anymore. But how do you feel Salesforce Industries has been received across the ecosystem? Like, do you feel companies are have been blown away by the capabilities of industries, or is there still some I guess lessons to be learned?
So first of all, I think there was a big gap that Salesforce world needed to start specializing or introduce a specific data model, specific capabilities to be industry specific. A lot of companies, especially telecommunications, energy companies, or even finance, they don't like solutions which are for everyone. They want to have a solution which is tailored to them because they believe that even if they hire people, most of the cases they always looked for people who has a similar experience in the specific industry. So that's a culture, as I mentioned, especially this telecommunication, energy, and finance. There's one specific reason behind it. If you think about the telecommunication company, for example, they needed to really to do almost everything what other industries are doing. So, for example, if you think about retail, so the telecommunications companies, they need to sell the headset. They need to take care about logistics, supply stock, and so on. So they have exactly the same problems like the normal companies, which are retail companies. Then on top of it, if you are buying the mobile phones and so on, they have a leasing offers, they have a financial offers with all the penalties and so on, the system. So they do a credit check. So this is also quite similar. Okay, it is not so complex like applying for mortgage, for example, but they have also a kind of financial processes to become a telco client. You need to follow this. So because of all of this, they require that you need to know all of these industry specific solutions. Yeah. So this enables the telecommunications company require that you need to know very well the industry specific solutions. And on top of it, you should know specific telecommunications terminology, like number porting. So porting the lines, porting the phone numbers, some regulatory requirements, complexity on the mediation, order management, and orchestration plan. So all of the specific terminologies which are required if you know the telecommunication market.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're now really seeing an uptick, especially in Australia, with industries. A lot of public sector work is going down the industries route. Obviously, energy, telecoms was the big ones. We saw like the Telstras of this world going down that path way back before the Velocity acquisition. Do you feel, or are you seeing, as the industries expert within your business, are you seeing that the uptake is better in some industries than others, and maybe the product is a better fit for some industries than others at this stage?
Yes, I agree with this one that Velocity was trying to create a product for all the industries. Yeah, so they created automotive cloud, they created insurance, media cloud, and so on. So they were trying to address and they wanted to say, we have a solution for all the industries. So whatever industries you pick up and you will get a solution which is specific for you. However, to enable or to develop the best product, you need to have enough clients that these clients, they will be giving enough your feedback to your product. So then your product, it will be better fit and better improve and so on. So that's why I think, especially communications cloud, especially energy cloud, I think these two clouds are quite successful from the industries. For telecommunications and for energy, what was happening is that these two industries solutions, they're getting a lot of clients who were start using the Velocity or Salesforce Industries product. And because there were a lot of gaps, a lot of feedback, then Salesforce was focusing on developing and increasing these industries. Yeah. When, for example, Media Cloud, they didn't have enough clients. So this product is still, let's say, a bit behind what, for example, communications offers. Yeah? It's always a combination of, if you have a lot of client portfolio, then you will invest money to make these clients happy and get more clients. If you don't have enough testers or the clients who will test and help you improve the product, you don't have enough demand, and you would just less invest money and then make a decision that the product is automatically not so good fit for a specific industry.
Yeah, and I guess with the platform size of like a telecoms company, I guess the amount of the money they'll be spending on Salesforce compared to some other companies would see Salesforce kind of lean into those, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree with this.
So CPQ, you specialize in CPQ as well. Has that kind of gone hand in hand with your specialization in industries because they're kind of coupled well?
One of the complex telecommunications area is exactly CPQ, the configure, price, and quote, which is very close to be connected with the product catalog. So in the normal CPQ, you have just a commercial product, you try to sell it, and then potentially you will invoice it. That's a typical, let's say, retail CPQ scenario. In telecommunications, or which can explain in a moment, that now more and more industries will follow the same model like the communications companies they do. So they don't have just a commercial product. They have a commercial product, they have a technical product, and they have a billing product. So they have a kind of three types of products, and all these products create your end-to-end product catalog. And now the key success of proper implementation of the CPQ is to design this end-to-end product catalog, taking into account your commercial, billing, and technical product catalog together. That's the key success of the implementation of the CPQ. And because of the complexity, I like challenges and complexity. And that was one of the area which is in telecommunications, one of the most complex to successfully deliver the proper CRM system. I was specializing from many, many years. 2008, I was first start building my first catalogs. And then till now, I am really enjoying to get into the details and design the catalog and all the complexity.
So like if we break that down for someone that hasn't worked in telecoms before, when you're talking about like bundling up packages within telecommunications, so if I walk into Telstra, like I'm not just buying a headset, an iPhone, I'm buying an iPhone with a certain amount of data allowance, with international phone calls. I need X amount of minutes per month. Plus then also am I buying the handset outright or am I leasing it? Have I taken out an insurance package, or have I said I don't need insurance? Like that's all of the packaging, I guess, that comes into like one interaction with one customer.
That's exactly the complexity. You can buy insurance, you can buy number of minutes, you need to select the handset, the type of the headset. So there is a lot of questions. But what was proven, and by the way, this is what you describe it is just B2C. B2B, and big enterprises products are much, much more complex. Because if you think about your client can be a hospital, or the chain of the hospital, and they have hospitals between, let's say, Queensland, Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. And what happens is that you have all of them, they would like to have a guaranteed connectivity, VPN, and so on. So your order or your quotation required to configure multi-site, and then you can, per each of the site, you can select the backup option or what would be the speed of the internet and so on. So all of this complexity is coming into B2B and B2C. And the whole idea is nowadays that you would like to make this quotation process as simple as it is. So on B2C, instead of you ask so many like questions or options, it was proven that it is much better to give something like predefined packages, and based on some questions, which AI also can analyze, for example, your previous invoices or previous data. This will enable that the system will be able to recommend you the package which is the best fit for you. Yeah, that's kind of a combination that you would like to simplify. And of course, behind is the complexity on the product catalog configuration is this, that you need to choose whatever you would like to implement. You need to configure the specific, let's say, insurance, or let's say the number of minutes as an attribute, as a product, and what kind of the rules, compatibility, eligibility rules would be. So there is a lot of on the CPQ, this stuff which is quite complex to discuss with the client.
And obviously, like telecoms has had subscription models for that. They're probably one of the first businesses, right, to go into the subscription world, whether that's internet, mobile phone, broadband, like Wi-Fi devices, all of these things. But subscription is becoming more and more common. Like you've got Netflix, media, you can subscribe to newspapers, you can subscribe to online newspapers. The world is becoming a subscription model. How are you seeing that change, and which other industries have you seen really adopt and adapt well to that subscription model?
Yeah, that's really, really a good question, because I'm strongly believe, and that's what I see on the market. The telecommunications, as you mentioned, they were one of the first companies which, for them, having a billing system, having the subscription model was the typical. The all other industries was not following, and they didn't have really subscription products. But nowadays, there's a big game changer. The companies start recognizing that to having a customer with subscription, first of all, build the loyalty that the customer is, first of all, paying every month the specific amount. You provide the specific services to this customer, and then automatically it's like a win-win situation because the customer can get the services for a cheaper price. But on the other hand, you have a stability and kind of a guarantee that this customer will stay with you for a long time. One of the most, for example, recent, I was really shocked, and I think this is really a future, but in my opinion, it's a brilliant idea. I saw the subscription for airlines. So how the product was working, that you were submitted saying that I wanted to use this airline minimum one ticket per month. You were able to choose exactly how many tickets you would like to use it. And you can use, for example, and you buy the package which was saying Europe. So you were able to choose any city, and you were getting just this ticket for free. The only conditions, I think, you needed to book this free months in advance. So you were paying the monthly subscription, which was $100 or euro. And then what was happening, you were able to every month book for free the road, the ticket between to any cities in Europe. Yeah. And airline was winning, you were winning. So that's a kind of, I think, the future. Another subscription, which I saw it, I think this is quite also famous, which I'm not so sure that it is so successful, but I think the companies that are going this direction, that automotive. Yeah. So you were able to buy BMW, Mercedes, for example, car, and on the day one, when you bought it, you don't need, let's say, heated seats, but then it's getting very cold and you need heated seats. So you just were going to your car shop and you are unable, and for example, activate your heated seats for 3 months only, and you are paying monthly. So that's another way when more and more companies are going into this subscription model.
Yeah, I mean, the airline one is fascinating. I wonder if there's anything happening in like the hotel chains that you would imagine they would look at something like that, where you can stay in any of our hotels, you just pay a monthly fee.
I think it will happen. When I saw it that airline decided for this one, I'm pretty sure sooner or later one of the chain they will do it, because they have already they have a very advanced loyalty system that you can book 3 nights for points. So I can imagine that they will be able to enable a similar subscription model, that you were able to book the nights in the subscription style.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, what is Salesforce RLM?
Yes. So that's also, let me give you a bit more background. Which is really, really interesting. What happens with the CPQ sales, especially Salesforce CPQ market. So as I don't know if all people know, but Salesforce, when it was started, they didn't have their own CPQ. So in the past, they acquired the first CPQ Steelbreak, which was managed package, and they rebranded after these acquisitions to call it Salesforce CPQ. And this Salesforce CPQ contains really a CPQ, so the product catalog, the configurator, and they contain also billing component. But later on, Salesforce, as they were lacking of the industry's data model, they saw it that Velocity which was another managed package company, which was very, very successful. They saw it that this CPQ, Velocity CPQ, has some stronger points than their Steelbreak. They saw it also that Velocity provided a very complex order management system. So they acquired Velocity. So in their portfolio, whenever you wanted to buy CPQ from Salesforce, you could buy all Salesforce CPQ or Salesforce Industry CPQ. And how Salesforce was trying to resolve this was that they were offering, if you were a communications, energy company, then they were pushing you to the Velocity CPQ, which they rebranded to the Industry CPQ. If you were any other industries, they were trying to align you with the Salesforce CPQ and so on. But Salesforce knew it, that having 2 CPQs maintained, generally they both are managed packages. So they were developed by the external parties. the main pain points of both CPQs is performance issues. So it doesn't matter if you are using Salesforce CPQ or Salesforce Industries CPQ. If you are not small, medium company, but you are start getting to have, let's say, complex quotation with 500 quote lines, with, let's say, 500 different product rules. If your let's say product catalog is complex, and on top of it, on your Salesforce org, you are using different managed packages from a different vendors, then automatically your CPQ is limited to the number of the resources which they can use, the CPU, the memory, and so on. And because of this, let's say, complex, large quotes, you may start getting performance issues or even errors which will block and you will be not able to continue. Salesforce was fully aware when they acquired these two CPQs and they knew it. So in the moment when they acquire and so on, they start developing the new CPQ, the third one, which they call it Revenue Lifecycle Management. And what they have really done it, they combined two words together. So they took at the best part from Salesforce CPQ. They took at the best part from the Salesforce Industries CPQ, and they were start combining. And then one of the most important stuff, they rewrite all of this from scratch using the Salesforce ecosystem. So it means it's not anymore managed package. You don't need to install anything like this. You just have a license, you enable, and it will work. So that's a really game changer, because all this performance, all these limitations of the managed package will go away. And another thing, Salesforce having these free CPQs, they will make decision that potentially they will develop only and maintain only one CPQ, because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, so they will be asking potentially sooner or later to move all this new CPQ.
So I'd heard, and I've said this on the podcast before, I know some people think that Salesforce CPQ stands for causes people to quit. Because will those challenges potentially go away now that the managed package will be no longer?
Yes, that's why I strongly believe this is a huge game changer. If the client has a need for a CPQ, I think sooner or later they will need to change to RLM. Revenue Lifecycle Management will give them the same capabilities which they have now, plus less performance issues, less complexity of maintaining this one. They will give them the additional advanced order management system with orchestration plan, with decomposition, and they will give also their billing system. So as you mentioned, let's say the hotel company would like to launch the subscription model. They will get everything in one package. They have CRM already. They have a Salesforce, and they would like just to now enable that you can configure your subscription, different, let's say, 3 levels, basic, premium, and gold. And then they will be able to bill it because they will have a billing system. So they will be able to enable the subscription products and sending monthly invoices to the client. So that's exactly beauty of new revenue lifecycle management system.
We didn't see, in terms of Salesforce billing, we didn't see that much uptake here before the velocity and like CPQ and billing. I only heard of a few clients in Australia that were doing billing. Has that changed since the Velocity acquisition and obviously utilizing the industry CPQ?
So I think the main reason why the billing was not so much utilized, Salesforce billing, is that first of all, it was not so popular, and to have Salesforce billing, you needed to have a Salesforce CPQ. As you mentioned, that Salesforce CPQ has their own problems and so on. So that was one reason. The second reason, if you have a telco companies or energy companies, they need much more advanced billing systems. That's why potentially this billing system, Salesforce billing, is not for telecommunications companies or for energy companies. However, and on any other industries, only Netflix, there were like not so many players which they were still adopting or start using this subscription product. But now, if the companies are changing their strategy, how they will be selling the products, as we discuss, airlines, hotels, maybe any industry will be able to enable and start subscription products. Then when you have when you start having the subscription product, you need a billing system. Do you need to buy the same complex billing system which telecommunications companies are using? No, you don't need to. And that's where exactly, in my opinion, Salesforce billing will come and will start be offering for more and more customers who want to start selling their business as a subscription base.
Is the pricing model still the same? Because I heard back then it was like a percentage of the billings.
I don't know, because RLM it will be officially announced, I think, on this Dreamforce. I'm really looking forward to this. And to be honest, this must be discussed individually with the Salesforce about their pricing strategy and how they will enable each of the component, how they will be enable CPQ, order management, billing, how the license will be modeled. Because as I said, this is really, I think, still to be announced.
Yeah. So I guess this is also a difficult one to answer because the product isn't officially live. But how do you see the kind of skill sets that will be required on these projects changing from like a typical Salesforce project where you've got, developers, functional consultants that know sales, service, maybe a bit of CPQ. You do get the odd CPQ specialist, but do you see the skill set required for an RLM project to be any different from what you would typically see on a CPQ project now?
Yes, I think, first of all, the skills which you needed is really the CPQ. So people who know very well Salesforce CPQ or Salesforce Industries CPQ, they will be able very easy to switch to the RLM. People who know Sales Cloud, potentially they need to start learning the RLM, because if RLM will be kind of enabled that any sales cloud client will be able to activate the license and quickly start using, let's say, the CPQ, then I cannot imagine that there will be just a sales cloud implementation. In most cases, it will be always with combination with the RLM. So it means that you need to configure some products, you need to configure some of the rules. So these skills must be extended with the people who, especially who will be implementing Sales Cloud or even the Service Cloud.
Have you found, because I know that finding CPQ skills is hard in the market, and like we struggle in Australia to find people that know CPQ well. When you're hiring for teams, have you found that people coming out of telecoms in other technologies, like having worked in Siebel in telecoms, can transition quite well into working in the CPQ world, or are there any other technologies that you found people transition well from?
You're totally right. The CPQ skills are still niche, and I just hope that RLM and they will be a proper trailheads, and more people will get familiar, because at the end the CPQ or RLM will be not so difficult, and in my opinion you can get the skills. The only problem is that I think there was not enough people who really wanted to go into this space. Regarding the CPQ demand versus available skills, there is a gap, and I think the people should reskill it from the sales cloud.
And do you see RLM only really being for enterprise customers, or do you think some of the small, because I know your background's obviously very enterprise, you've worked at the big consulting firms, but do you hear of smaller businesses, growing businesses using CPQ now and potentially RLM in the future?
Yeah, I think the RLM will be the right product for any industries. And I can imagine that there will be a lot of small and medium companies who would like to start selling their products in the subscription model. And then RLM would be really a perfect fit for them, or perfect choice for them.
Awesome. Well, that's been really interesting to find out more about you, but also what's coming with in this space. And excited for further announcements from Salesforce around RLM. If anyone wants to kind of pick your brains, ask you some further questions, or just hear more about you, where's the best place to find you?
I will share, as part of the description, I will share my email, IBM email address, so you will be able to reach out to me, or you can find me on the LinkedIn and connect with me. And please feel free to contact me if you need some help with your career into RLM, or also if you're a client and looking to help with sooner or later to upgrade to RLM, please reach out to me, and we will be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.